17, running around, you can cut through people's yards, get in arguments with people, you can at times be a punk kid, you can do whatever, but at no time did I ever think someone could shoot me for it. And yet alone have a law that backs them to be okay with shooting me for it. So I'm definitely not, I want to make sure that everyone knows tonight, I'm not here to make my opinion the opinion. That's what I've been trying to do with the show, is that I don't have all the answers, and I just want to create a dialogue for all of us to talk about. But in my opinion, for us to have laws that remove law is definitely not law. That's the opposite of it. So when I started to work with the piece for Trayvon, he had Skittles in his pocket when he was shot. So I knew that I wanted to do a sculpture of him wearing the hoodie with his face covered in Skittles to remind us that he was a 17-year-old kid, unarmed. Whether he talked back to an individual or not, there was no way to threaten another human life, to give another guy the ability to say, I felt threatened enough to need to take his life. So I did that piece, and then originally I was going to have a 9mm casing in front of him because that's what he was shot point blank with. And then it turned into me making kind of a sea of them at the base of the sculpture to kind of represent, maybe there's many of these stories that we haven't heard. And then I made a wall installation where, if you get a chance when you leave here, go back out and look at it. You'll see he's actually looking at himself. There's a hoodie that's almost crucified. And I took that piece apart many, many times because I was like, how can I make something that would have his energy, something that doesn't exploit the scenario, but also gives light to the fact that like this kid died and had to be sacrificed in order for people to have the Black Hoodie movement or Black Lives Matter movement. And that's a sad statement, that a 17-year-old kid's life has to die for us to start rethinking some laws in this country of what we're doing to each other and what laws allow someone that's crazy to be protected by those laws. I mean, a lot of people buy guns because they think, they're afraid. I'm scared that this is gonna happen or this is gonna happen. And in reality, the people doing most of these crimes, they're not shooting someone out of fear. They're shooting someone out of the reverse of that. So, and then the other sculptures started to kind of pour out. Eric Gardner, for instance, who was killed on the streets of Staten Island for selling cigarettes. I mean, that's a tax law. He was unarmed. There was no person anywhere in history around him that ever reported a violent situation from this guy. No one was threatened by him. No one had an argument with him. He was selling loose cigarettes, and it's a tax situation. Like it's untaxed, and that's why the police had enough with him. And they said, "We've arrested you twice on this, and now we're going to choke you out and kill you on the street for this." And that one really affected me the worst because when I saw it in the news, something about his face reminded me of my father. My dad used to sell things on the street, and it was an incredible situation to watch someone else be killed for that same situation. And that became really strong. So, and then the other pieces started pouring out. Alton Sterling was killed for selling CDs, and some woman reported that there was someone with a gun, and 2 police officers take him down to the ground. If 2 police officers took me down to the ground, I'd be screaming, kicking, punching. I mean, we all would. I mean, that's something, it's a human reaction. And because of that, they put a gun to his chest and kill him. So, hopefully people will go around and when you leave here and just take a second to look at them and look at them as the sake of someone's life that was lost, and absorb it and think, how can we get out there, not argue with people to change this, not threaten other people to change these laws, but how can we start more dialogues and get people interested in thinking of what we're doing.